I never expected to find my life shattered by a Christmas gift. The paper was red and gold, tied with a ribbon that my daughter's hands had knotted a little too tightly, as if she feared the truth might slip out before I could open it. I remember everyone's faces around the tree, the laughter of the children, the clinking of glasses. And then there was silence. Only the sound of that ribbon being pulled, of paper tearing, of something in me breaking open. I looked down, and what I saw wasn't just a gift. It was a wound, carefully wrapped. You want to know what it was, don't you? I'll tell you. But first, you need to understand why it hurt so deeply. Why it turned joy into trembling. Go on, Mom, my daughter urged, her smile stretched thin, nervous. Open it. Her voice had an edge, the kind you can only hear when you know a person's heart. The children were bouncing in excitement, whispering, trying to guess. I smiled at them, I smiled, but my hands shook as I lifted the lid of the box. Inside was a book. Not new, but old. Its cover was worn, its corners bruised. A leather journal. My breath caught before I even touched it. I knew this journal. Or rather, I knew of it. It belonged to a man I once loved, long before my daughter was born. A man I was told never to speak of. The room swayed around me. The twinkling lights blurred. I felt the warmth of the fire, but it couldn't reach me. My fingers grazed the leather, and suddenly I was 20 years old again, standing in a field in the dead of summer, hearing him call my name. Mom, my daughter's voice cut through. She leaned forward, her eyes fixed on me, searching. I forced myself to look up. Where did you get this? Her lips pressed together, her gaze flicked toward the floor. She didn't answer. That silence was louder than any confession. The journal sat in my lap, heavy as a stone. I could smell the faint must of it, the years of dust. I hadn't seen it in decades. How had she found it? And why now, of all nights, Christmas, when the air should have been filled with nothing but warmth? I pressed my palm to the cover. The past rushed back, so vivid I could taste it. The sting of salt on my lips, the sound of waves crashing against the pier where he and I used to meet in secret. His laughter, low and full, promising me a future that never came. I closed my eyes. You shouldn't have brought this to me. Mom, you deserve to know, she said softly, though her voice trembled. You've lived half your life without the truth. The children, sensing something strange, quieted. They turned back to their toys, but every now and then their little eyes darted toward us, trying to make sense of what grown-ups were whispering. I wanted to put the journal down, to shove it under the couch, to pretend it had never been placed in my hands. But that would have been too easy, too much like the lies that had been fed to me long ago. I opened it. The first page bore his handwriting. I knew it instantly, slanted, impatient, letters bleeding into one another. My throat tightened. Dear Anna, it began. Anna. That was me, a lifetime ago. I remember the first time he called me that. It was late, past midnight, and we were walking along the railroad tracks just outside town. The summer air smelled of honeysuckle and dirt, and the cicadas sang so loud we had to lean close to hear each other. Anna, he said, brushing my hand. That's who you are when you're with me. Not the girl they expect you to be. I laughed then, shy and unsure, but the name stuck. With him, I wasn't a daughter under her father's thumb or a girl already promised to another man. I was just Anna, wild, free, alive. But those memories, they weren't supposed to return. Not here. Not in front of my family. I flipped another page, scanning lines I could barely focus on. Words of love, words of longing, words I thought had been burned with time. I felt my daughter's hand on mine. Mom, she whispered, I know you never told me about him. But I found this in Grandma's attic. She must have kept it. My chest tightened at the mention of my mother. She kept it. She hid it, my daughter corrected. Anne. Mom, there are things in here you were never told. Things she didn't want you to know. My stomach turned. My mother. The woman who had silenced me, who had told me to forget him, who had warned me never to speak his name again. She had hidden his words from me, locked them away in an attic, like a dirty secret. I stared at the fire, the flames flickering gold and orange. My whole life I had wondered what might have been, and now the answers lay in my lap, waiting to be read. Why now? I asked my daughter. My voice cracked despite my efforts. She looked at me with tears threatening in her eyes. Because I see the way you look sometimes, when the room is full but you seem far away. Like you're missing a part of yourself. I thought maybe this could give you back a piece of it. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scold her for digging up ghosts. But how could I? She was only trying to mend what she thought was broken. The truth was, I was broken. I had been, for years. I closed the journal and held it against my chest, as if that could contain the flood threatening to burst from me. Children, I said, my voice steadier now, why don't you go play in the other room? Grandma needs to talk with your mama. They obeyed without complaint, sensing the weight in my tone. Their small footsteps pattered across the floor until the door clicked shut. The silence between my daughter and me was heavy. I could hear the ticking of the clock on the mantel, each second a hammer against my heart. You've opened something, I said finally, that can't be closed again. I know, she whispered. But maybe it shouldn't be closed. And so here I sit, my loves, telling you this now because secrets don't stay buried forever. They have a way of finding the light, no matter how tightly they're bound with ribbon and paper. That Christmas night was the beginning. The journal was the key. And though part of me wishes I had never opened it, another part, perhaps the true part, knows it was always meant to find its way back to me. Because inside those pages was not only love, but betrayal. Not only memories, but truths that would change the way I saw my family forever. I'll tell you what I mean. But you must listen closely, because this story is not simple. It is stitched with pain and silence, with choices made by those who thought they knew what was best. Choices that shaped who I became. It begins long before that Christmas. It begins with a summer, a boy, and a promise. A promise broken. And it begins with me, Anna. I can still feel the heat of that summer as if it clings to my skin even now. The year was 1965, and the world seemed wide and reckless, full of music, protests, and change. But for me, it was smaller than that. It was just a boy with dark hair and restless eyes, waiting for me by the pier. His name was Daniel. I can hear you all sigh, my dear ones. Don't smile just yet. Love stories are never as simple as they look on paper. Daniel wasn't supposed to be mine. My parents had other plans, plans shaped by money, by reputation, by the unspoken rules of who could belong to whom. But he and I, we belonged, even if the world said otherwise. I remember the night it all began. I had slipped out of the house, my shoes in my hand so my father wouldn't hear me on the stairs. The air outside was thick with humidity, crickets buzzing so loudly it was like the earth itself was humming. Daniel was leaning against his car, a beat-up Chevy that coughed smoke whenever he drove it too fast. When he saw me, his grin lit the darkness. "You made it, Anna," he whispered, holding out his hand. I hesitated, glancing back toward the glowing windows of my parents' house. Then I placed my hand in his. His palm was warm, calloused from the factory work he did to help his family. "Let's get out of here," he said. And we did. We drove until the town lights disappeared, until we were nothing but two shadows racing down country roads, the night air whipping through the open windows. That was the night I first felt free. Anna, he told me later, when we stopped by the railroad tracks and sat on the hood of his car, promise me something. What? I asked, my head tilted back, staring at the stars. Promise me you won't let them tell you who to be. Promise me you'll choose your own life. His words sank into me like stones into water, rippling through everything I thought I knew. I wanted to promise. Oh, I wanted to. But even then, I knew the cost. My parents were strict, their approval ironclad. My father had already spoken of a future he wanted for me, with a boy named Michael, polite and polished, from a family with a fortune tied up in real estate. I didn't answer Daniel. I just leaned against him, letting the steady beat of his heart answer for me. When I opened that journal years later, at Christmas, the first entries were from those nights. He had written about the way I laughed, the way my hair smelled of lilacs, the way I bit my lip when I was nervous. Reading those words, sitting by the fire with my daughter watching me, I felt myself fall back into that girl's skin. And it hurt. Because I knew how the story ended. My mother found out first. It was August when she caught me slipping back into the house just before dawn. She was waiting in the kitchen, her robe tied tight, her coffee untouched. "Where have you been?" she demanded, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. I froze. I still remember how my legs trembled, how the screen door creaked shut behind me. "I was with Daniel," I whispered. Her face hardened, all softness gone. "That boy is not for you, Anna. Do you understand me? You are promised to Michael. Do you think I'll let you throw your future away for some factory hand? He's more than that," I shot back, surprising even myself. "He's kind. He listens to me. She slapped her hand against the table, silencing me. "You will not see him again. Do you hear me? Not once more." I should have said no. I should have fought harder. But I was 18, living under her roof, under her rules. I bowed my head and went upstairs, tears burning hot trails down my cheeks. Of course, I saw him again. We met in secret, always careful, always looking over our shoulders. Each meeting felt stolen, precious, like time borrowed from a clock we knew would one day stop. One evening, sitting on the pier with his arm around me, Daniel whispered, "Run away with me." My heart leapt. The thought of it was wild and terrifying. To leave everything, my family, my home, the future they planned, and choose him instead. "I can't," I said, though my voice cracked. "You can," he insisted, his eyes burning with hope. "We'll find work. We'll make a life. Just you and me." I wanted to believe him. God help me, I almost did. But the weight of my parents' expectations, the fear of being cast out, it was stronger. I shook my head, and in that moment, something in him broke. Years later, when I read his journal, I discovered what I hadn't known, that he never gave up on me, even after that night. One entry, written in shaky handwriting, said, "She is my heart. Even if she chooses another life, I'll wait. Someday, she'll find her way back." My hands trembled when I read those words by the Christmas fire. My daughter watched me, her brow furrowed with worry. "What does it say, Mom?" she asked. I closed the book, my throat tight. "It says he loved me more than I knew." She reached for my hand. "Then why didn't you tell me about him?" "Because I couldn't," I wanted to say. Because the past was sealed shut by shame and silence. Because my mother had made sure his name was never spoken again. Instead, I whispered, because some wounds never healed. The truth is, my loves, I did see Daniel one last time. And that meeting changed everything. It was a rainy afternoon in September. I had been walking home from the library when I heard my name called across the street. "Anna." I turned, and there he was, soaked to the skin, his hair plastered to his forehead. He rushed toward me, his eyes desperate. "Please," he begged, grabbing my hands, "don't marry him. Don't let them decide for you. Tell me you'll choose us." My chest ached so fiercely I thought it might burst. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to throw myself into his arms and let the rain wash everything else away. But then I saw my father standing at the corner, his umbrella open, watching. His glare was like a blade pressed to my throat. I pulled my hands from Daniel's grip. "I can't," I whispered. His face crumpled. He stepped back, rain dripping down his cheeks like tears. "Then this is goodbye." He turned and walked away, and I, fool that I was, let him. That night, my mother came into my room. She didn't shout this time. She only said, cold and certain, "You've made the right choice. You'll thank us one day." But I never thanked her. Not once. And when, 2 months later, word spread that Daniel had left town, gone north to find work, I locked the pain inside me, buried it where no one could see. At least, I thought I buried it. Until my daughter handed me that journal. Until his words pulled me back. "Mom," she said gently, her eyes fixed on me, "there's more. You need to read further." I shook my head. Not tonight. But inside, I knew she was right. There was more. More than love, more than memory. There were truths my mother had stolen from me. And I feared that once I read them, nothing in this family would ever be the same. I didn't open the journal again that night. I couldn't. My hands had trembled enough. My daughter watched me, patient and quiet, as if she understood that the past was a weight I wasn't ready to bear all at once. But the next morning, the sun slanting through the kitchen window, I could no longer pretend. The journal called to me. I lifted it from the table, the leather warm beneath my fingers, and began reading. And then I found it, the part my mother had never wanted me to see. It wasn't about Daniel anymore. Not really. It was about her. The entry began innocuously enough. A name I recognized, but one I had never spoken aloud in decades. My sister, Margaret. The words bled across the page. I did what I had to do. I couldn't let Anna ruin everything. If the truth came out, it would destroy us all. I hope she forgives me one day. I dropped the journal. The kitchen spun. My daughter gasped, leaning forward. "Mom?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My heart pounded, my fingers were numb. What truth? What had my mother hidden? I picked the journal back up. The lines blurred as tears filled my eyes. Daniel had loved me, yes, but my mother had kept a secret that wasn't about love. It was about life, about choices that had changed everything. The next pages revealed it all. My mother had found out I was pregnant. Not with Michael's child, never his. With Daniel's. She had panicked, made decisions in the shadows. She had told me I must end the pregnancy, or else she would send me away, alone, to a distant relative. I can still feel the cold wash over me now, decades later. That moment, reading the words in the quiet morning light, felt like stepping into a storm I had only glimpsed from afar. "You're kidding," I whispered, my hands shaking. She kept you from knowing," my daughter said softly. "She hid it all. You never knew because she didn't want you to." I sank into the chair, clutching the journal to my chest. How had I lived all these years, unaware that a life, my own child, had been stolen from me before I even had the chance to say yes or no? I remembered now. There had been days I felt an emptiness I could not name. Nights I woke up crying, thinking I had failed somehow. And my mother had been there, offering comfort, but never explanation. Always a shadow of concern, a veil of secrecy. I understood now. It wasn't protection. It was control. How could she? I whispered into the empty room. She thought she was protecting you, my daughter replied, her voice steady but tinged with sorrow. But Mom, she betrayed you. And she never told anyone. Not your father. Not Margaret. Not even me. The betrayal landed like a weight on my chest. I thought of Daniel, of the life we might have had, the child that could have been. All erased, hidden behind my mother's fear and rigid rules. I picked up the journal again, leafing to the final entry. The handwriting was shaky, as if my mother had been writing under duress, or in tears. Anna will never know the truth. She must never know. I did it for her own good. Someday, perhaps she'll forgive me, but I cannot let her learn what happened. I cannot bear it. I could barely breathe. I remember gripping the edge of the table, my knuckles white. The room was silent except for the ticking of the clock, but in my head, 1,000 voices screamed. Daniel's voice. My mother's. My own. And then, finally, I realized the most painful truth of all. My mother had made the choice for me. She had decided what I could and could not know, what life I could live, and which part of me she would erase. I looked at my daughter, tears streaming down my face. She took it from me. My child, my future. I know, Mom, she said, her own eyes wet. I found the journal because I wanted you to have the truth. I wanted you to see that your life, your choices, were never entirely yours. But now you can reclaim some of it. Reclaim? I laughed bitterly. How do you reclaim something that was stolen before you even knew it existed? You start by understanding, she said. By knowing the truth. By forgiving, not for her, but for yourself. Forgiveness. That word felt impossible. And yet, I could feel its edges, like the first pale light of dawn creeping through storm clouds. I sat by the fire that evening, the journal open on my lap, the children playing quietly nearby. I traced the words with my fingers, remembering Daniel's hands, the warmth of his presence, the promise of what could have been. And I felt a new pain, the pain of years wasted in silence, of memories that had been manipulated, of love lost and life denied. But there was also something else. A strange, fragile hope. That even after decades, truth could set some things right. That even after betrayal, the heart could still find a way to heal. I remembered what Daniel had written, someday, she'll find her way back. Perhaps I had finally found my way back, not to him, not to what was lost, but to myself. The next days were difficult. I confronted my mother, though not with anger. She was old now, fragile and unyielding, her eyes avoiding mine. I didn't need answers from her, not really. The journal had given me everything I needed to see, to understand. I spoke instead to my daughter, over long cups of tea, sitting by the window as winter sunlight painted the room gold. I don't know if I can forgive her, I said, my voice quiet, almost a whisper. You don't have to, she replied. Not yet. You just need to live with it. Let yourself feel it, and then, we'll see what comes next. I nodded. And in that quiet moment, I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to know before. The betrayal was not the end of my story. It was a turning point. A chance to reclaim the life I thought I had lost, to live openly with the truth, and to teach my family about courage, about honesty, about the weight and the freedom of knowing. That Christmas, the gift my daughter gave me was more than a journal. It was a mirror. A reflection of my younger self, of love, of loss, of choices made and stolen. And it was a key, to unlock a past that had been locked away, to face a mother who had controlled too much, and to embrace the life that remained. I had lived decades believing I understood my own history, but now I knew, some truths cannot be buried forever. They have a way of rising to the surface, demanding acknowledgement, demanding courage. I held the journal that night, the fire crackling, my daughter beside me. The children slept, unaware of the storm that had passed through our hearts. And for the first time in many years, I felt free. Free to grieve. Free to remember. Free to love what had been and what still could be. Because the truth, painful, cruel, beautiful, was finally mine. And that was a gift no one could ever take away again. The first snow came quietly that year. Flakes drifted down against the windows like slow-motion confetti, coating the world in white. I watched from the kitchen, journal open on the table, the room thick with the scent of cinnamon from the cookies my daughter had baked. The children ran about, their laughter echoing off the walls, blissfully unaware of the truths that had just surfaced. I should have felt peace. And yet, my chest ached with everything I had discovered. Betrayal. Loss. Choices stolen from me before I even knew they existed. And still, there was hope. A fragile, trembling hope that maybe, somehow, we could make it right. I knew I had to face her. My mother. She had grown frail, her shoulders stooped with the weight of years and secrets. Yet even in that weakness, there was stubbornness, the same iron will that had once dictated my life. I found her sitting in her armchair, the light from the fire painting her face in harsh amber shadows. "Mom," I said softly. She didn't look up at first. Her hands folded neatly in her lap. Finally, she spoke, her voice thin, almost fragile. "You've read it." I nodded. "I have. Everything." Her eyes flickered with a mixture of fear, shame, and, surprisingly, relief. "I thought you'd never find out." "And I did," I said. "All of it. Daniel, the child, the choices you made for me. You didn't protect me. You took from me what I never had the chance to fight for." She flinched at my words, but did not deny them. "I thought I was helping you," she whispered. "Helping me?" I repeated, my voice rising slightly, though my hands shook. "Do you know what it feels like to live a life half-buried, Mom? To feel a hole inside you and never understand why? I thought I had failed. I thought, maybe I wasn't meant to love, to have a family, to choose for myself. And all along, you knew the truth. And you kept it from me." She swallowed hard. I was afraid. I wanted to protect you. From scandal, from heartbreak, from everything. I thought you'd never forgive me." I laughed, bitter and hollow. "Forgive you? Maybe someday. But I can't pretend this doesn't hurt. And I can't pretend I don't feel angry, even after all these years." Her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time, I saw a hint of the woman who had once held me as a child, comforting me, loving me, flawed, human, fearful, but human nonetheless. We sat together in silence, the crackle of the fire filling the room. And in that silence, I realized something important. Anger was a luxury I could not afford. Yes, she had betrayed me. Yes, she had stolen parts of my life. But holding on to that anger would not bring back Daniel, or the child, or the years I had lost. Instead, I let the tears fall. And she let hers. And for the first time, decades of silence began to dissolve. "Mom," I whispered finally, "I need you to understand, this doesn't erase the past. But maybe, we can try to be honest now. With each other, and with the family." She nodded, trembling. "I'll try, Anna. I really will." After that day, life shifted slowly, like a river finding a new course. My daughter helped me share pieces of the story with the children in small ways, not the full heartbreak, of course, but enough for them to understand that families are messy, that people make mistakes, and that love can survive even betrayal. I began writing my own letters in the journal my daughter had given me, pages of reflection, stories, and memories. I wrote about Daniel, not to reopen old wounds, but to honor what had been real and beautiful. I wrote about choices, about courage, and about forgiveness, even when it felt impossible. And every time I wrote, I felt the weight on my chest lessen, just a little. Christmas came again the following year. Snow blanketed the town, the streets sparkling under street lamps. The children decorated the tree, laughing and hanging ornaments I had made decades ago. My daughter brought out a small box, tied neatly with a ribbon. "Mom," she said, smiling, "this is for you." I lifted the lid. Inside was a photo album, old photographs Daniel had sent me in the years after he left town. Pictures of him working, of places he had traveled, of a life he had built alone. And tucked inside, a small note, "For you, always, Anna." I held the photos against my chest, tears spilling down my cheeks. My daughter wrapped her arms around me. "He loved you," she whispered. "And you were never alone, not really." I nodded. For the first time, I truly believed it. I was not alone. I had love surrounding me now, not perfect, not without fault, but real. And the truth, finally uncovered, had set me free. That night, I sat by the fire, the journal open, the photo album beside me. The children were asleep. My daughter rested her head against my shoulder. And I spoke, softly, as if the words were meant for anyone who might listen. Family is complicated. It is messy. Sometimes it hurts so deeply you think you cannot survive it. And sometimes, the people you love the most, they will betray you, whether out of fear, love, or their own brokenness. But here is what I've learned, my loves: truth is powerful. Truth heals, even when it hurts. And forgiveness does not erase what happened, but it allows the heart to breathe again. I paused, feeling the warmth of the fire on my face, the steady rhythm of my daughter's breathing, the soft hum of the world outside. "I want you to remember this," I continued, my voice steady now, filled with the weight of decades and the clarity of what I had survived. "Secrets may protect, but they also imprison. Betrayal may wound, but love can repair. And though we cannot change the past, we can choose how we carry it into the future. Choose honesty. Choose courage. Choose love." My daughter squeezed my hand. I felt the pulse of life in my veins, strong and steady. And in that moment, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be, anchored by truth, surrounded by love, and finally, at peace with the story of my life. That Christmas, the gift my daughter gave me did more than reveal a secret. It revealed the strength I had carried all along, the resilience born from decades of loss, and the power of confronting the past instead of burying it. I learned that healing is not a destination, but a journey, and that even after betrayal, we can reclaim joy, memory, and love. I turned the pages of the journal one last time that night, reading Daniel's words with reverence, feeling both the ache of what was lost and the beauty of what remained. And I knew this: every story, no matter how painful, can teach us how to live fully, how to forgive, and how to pass wisdom on to the next generation. So I tell you this, my dear ones, as you gather in warmth and light, as you unwrap gifts and share laughter, cherish truth. Hold it gently, but do not hide from it. For the truths we avoid have a way of finding us, and when they do, they carry the chance to heal what we thought was broken. And always remember, love, even after betrayal, endures. I am Anna. And this is my story.